and Peter.
John, we know about the strikes that took place in northeast Syria a matter of weeks ago. Just to be very clear, have there been any additional U.S. strikes against targets as Iranian-backed proxies in Iraq or in Syria beyond those?
You mean from the United States?
From the United States?
No.
There have not. So just to be clear, then, there have been at least 17 attacks on bases that house Americans since that last set of strikes. Will you agree that those strikes did not deter these Iranian-backed proxies from continuing their assaults on American bases?
I would certainly agree that there have been continued attacks. I would also note that none of them have been effective, and in many cases thwarted before they could pose any kind of a direct challenge. And that, again, Peter, we'll make the decisions on our own about how and if we're going to respond.
To be clear, if you agree that there have been continued attacks, these 17, isn't that evidence alone? Do you agree that that's evidence alone that it has not deterred them from continuing?
It's certainly evidence that some of these militia groups still believe that there's value in continuing to try to strike at our troops and facilities. And our message to them is, you need to be careful because we're going to do what we have to do to protect our troops and our facilities.
Let me ask about the situation in Gaza then, if I can, very quickly. In Ukraine, the U.S. put restrictions on how some U.S.-provided munitions could be used. There couldn't be any targeting in Russia, for example. Has the U.S. put any restrictions on how Israel can use U.S.-provided munitions in its war with Hamas in Gaza?
As is in keeping with U.S. law, we provide security assistance to any foreign nation, including Israel, with the expectation, the full expectation, that those weapons will be used in keeping with the law of armed conflict. That's no different here for Israel than it is for anybody else. And I want to go back to what I said before, but the message to these groups is, don't and stop. These attacks are unacceptable.
Then if I can ask just to punctuate the last thought that we were just talking about, to be clear, does the U.S., and they have to be within the laws of war then, is our position on this, armed conflict. So
all security assistance is governed by the law and governed by a requirement that it be used in keeping with the law of armed conflict.
So acknowledging the wide belief and understanding that Hamas has built tunnels underneath a variety of different locations, including hospitals, is the U.S. comfortable in knowing that Israel would or continue to target hospitals in Gaza?
I won't speak to specific targets, Peter. I think you can understand why I won't do that. It's not a military operation that we're running or leading. The Israeli Defense Forces are conducting these operations.
With the Israelis making their own decision that could include hospitals, right?
As I've said before, when you're fighting in urban warfare, you've got to make some tough choices about your targets. Something could be a completely legal target, but because the civilian casualty count is too high, maybe you don't do it. Maybe you make a policy decision not to do it. These are the kinds of tough decisions that Israeli commanders are going to have to make for themselves. We're going to keep urging them to be as discriminate and careful and cautious as possible.